Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and knock this out. Let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, not just to do a little bit of crafting, but to cover up my bald sexy head so people don't get too distracted by that. I know that turns you guys on sometimes, and girls, and you forget to listen to what I'm saying, so we got to keep that covered up. Alright, first question. How to start training girlfriend when she's too weak to lift the bar for very long. She was never involved in sports and is very skinny upper body wise. Her upper body is limiting how strong her legs can get. I had her doing lunges, but she can't hold any more weight in her hands. Also, her body awareness and body mechanics are poor. She has trouble grasping, arching her back, and keeping stomach tense when contracting her glutes and hamstrings while squatting. All right, fantastic question. Honestly, your girl's a complete noob. So what you need to do, I'm going to recommend you step back for a couple weeks and not have her try to do any real barbell movements. She's too weak. Her core is too weak. It sounds like her core and her grip strength are real problems. Lunges, why the fuck would you have anybody do a lunge? I mean, waste of time. Trying to get somebody into shape quickly who doesn't want to spend extra hours in the gym lifting weights, forget lunges. Don't worry about that sort of nonsense. Squats and deadlifts are all she needs for her lower body. So throw that out, and that's just adding extra grip work that she can't handle yet. So you're going to need to spend some time having her do broomstick movements, or find a little 5-pound bar, make something to take to the gym, or even just, again, start with a broomstick, work on her basic body mechanics. I'm going to recommend that you have her squat to a box, do box squats down to parallel, and mobility work, third world squats, and tons of core work. I want you having her train her core every single day. Her core is too weak to train. That's why she's having problem arching her back. That's why she's having problems with body awareness. That's why she's having probably trouble staying upright. Core every single day. I want her to work on planks. You need to get her where she can hold a plank for 30 to 60 seconds. Maybe get in the gym and do cable crunches or band crunches standing, so that she gets used to contracting her abs while standing on her feet and rocking and being hard on her heels. That's what you need to do, all right? So you need to work on that. And then basic GPP work. I want you to have her do farmer's walks with the heaviest dumbbell she can handle. If she can only hold a 3-pound dumbbell in each hand for farmer's walks, and start with a 3-pound dumbbell. You need to work on her grip strength. If you work on her grip strength, her upper body will improve along with the core. And I think farmer's walks with light dumbbells and gradually build up the dumbbells. When she can do farmer's walks with 15 or 20-pound dumbbells in each hand, then you're going to be ready to put her on real barbell work. But for now, doing the exercises with just a broomstick, do core work every single day, both some sort of standing crunch along with planks, and do farmer's walks. General physical preparedness, like the farmer's walks and stuff, are what she needs. And if you can find some other GPP work for her to do, then by all means do so. But again, keep it low intensity GPP. You're going to have to spend some time building this girl up before you're going to be able to put her on the barbell stuff. And again, a lot of times you have people who start off well enough you can go straight into barbell work. Your girlfriend is one of these people who you can't, and that's okay. In a month's time, she's going to be ready. If you just do those things that I say, and everything is going to be fine. But again, you're going to have to build the foundation first, and that's going to be core, grip work, general physical preparedness is what's going to get you there. All right, next question. Howdy, Jason. You answered my question last week, and you touched upon the topic of muscle imbalances. Can you talk some more about how to avoid those? Specifically, how much pulling volume is the bare minimum for healthy shoulders if I am more focused on my upper body presses rather than upper body pulls? All right, great question. Great question. As far as your volume goes, it's not about volume. You always see people, and when people write bodybuilding programs talking about balance, you always see them talking about volume. Who gives a shit about your volume? It's about how strong they are. Does it matter if you do 20 sets of varying pulling movements if they don't build the basic strength that you need to be balanced? If you do twice as much pulling, you think that automatically means you're stronger? No, you need to get stronger on your pulling. Step back and put some focus on it. Pendlay rows, what I'll tell guys is a perfect balance. If you can take the same weight on a Pendlay row that you close grip bench press and you can get within a couple of reps of it, you're probably doing okay. Meaning if you can do 10 reps with the Pendlay row with 225 and your closed grip bench press, you can do 12 to 13 pause with 225, you're probably balanced enough. And I like the Pendlay row because it's a stricter exercise. It's harder to really fake the amount of weight you can do because you've got to pull it from the floor every time. It's harder to use body English. It's going to be a better judge of your pulling strength. So Pendlay rows are a good way to check your balance versus, again, the closed grip bench press. Again, a better, oftentimes true judge of pressing strength. And that's okay. You can focus heavily on your pressing, but what I'm going to say is that spend you a couple of weeks, if you're worried about an imbalance there, spend a couple of weeks catching up. Don't try to progress for several weeks on any of your pressing, whether it's your chest presses, your overhead pressing. Focus on your pulling. Get in there and get strong on Pendlay rows. Focus on your deadlifts more. Focus on some face pulls. And get all of those progressing. But the main thing is I like to compare for the ratios, again, the closed grip bench press versus Pendlay row strength. If your Pendlay row strength is, again, in general, around within 90% of your closed grip press, you're probably pretty well balanced. And if you're in doubt, just do more Pendlay rows, meaning you can come in and do explosive Pendlay rows for a couple sets of 3 at the end of every workout if you need to, also to help keep that balance if you're worried about it. You can also come in and do 2 or 3 sets of 10 to 20 reps on face pulls anytime you're worried about it to help prevent those muscle imbalances. But yeah, I think that's what you need to be shooting for. And again, it's just about strength ratios, not about volume. And again, and I like to see that. Usually, as long as you're not more than about 90% stronger on your closed grip and your Pendlay, then you're okay. Now, for example, with my girlfriend, she is stronger on her Pendlay rows, and that's good. I like to keep it that way because she's someone with some previous shoulder issues, and her back tends to get very strong, and that's good. So we use that to our advantage. And her Pendlay rows are stronger than her presses by up to about 15 pounds on average for similar reps. And that's fantastic. She can do 15 pounds more on Pendlay rows than she does on the closed grip. So she's not in any danger. But once you go beyond about 90%, if you fall under 90% on the Pendlay row, then maybe it's time to stop and readdress those. And again, quit worrying about volume, worry about strength, because it's not training volume that stabilizes you. It's not training volume that keeps everything stable. It's strength and development. So it's more of a function of how strong you are versus how much you're actually training each one. So a better way to look at it. All right, next question. While I know you don't want to blunt pain responses too much with respect to training without regard to one's body, if you are taking them for non-lifting related issues, a bad headache for example, what's your feeling with respect to the impact of NSAIDs on recovery, performance, hypertrophy? It seems to be one of those issues that every resource I've stumbled across seems to disagree with the one prior. All right, great question. I'm going to be blunt with you here. I have answered this exact same question almost 6 times in Q&As, at least 6 other times in Q&As over the last 2.5 years. Yes, there's a lot of conflicting opinions. There's some conflicting studies. When you have that happen, what you have to do, stop looking at individual studies and look at meta-analysis. Look at meta-analysis. And on this one, we had a meta-analysis, I think, about 3 years ago. I want to say 2013, that looked at specifically for athletes NSAIDs, recovery, and performance. And what they found was that NSAIDs did not measurably or meaningfully impact post-workout muscle protein synthesis, muscle restructuring as a result of training, or any of that. And that's what you're looking for. Muscle restructuring after training is where you get your hypertrophy. So that's really what you want to look at. If something is interfering with your body restructuring tissue proteins after training, that's the shit you need to avoid if you want to gain size. Perfect example, we found supplementing with too much vitamin C interferes with tissue protein restructuring after training. NSAIDs do not. They don't seem to interfere with recovery outside of their impact on your liver. Meaning your liver is there to detoxify your body, and if you put too many different things in your body or too much of any single thing, whether it's alcohol or heroin or anabolic steroids, or NSAIDs, ibuprofen in your body. All these things your body uses your liver to detoxify. When it has too much stuff, irrespective of whether it's a mixture of different stuff or it is way too much of just one single substance. I mean, again, the liver can only handle so much alcohol. It can only handle so much opiates. It can only handle so much of any toxic things before it starts to become a problem. If your liver is overloaded, your recovery will suffer. But if you're a very, very casual drinker and you're only taking NSAIDs once a day, there's no way that's going to have a meaningful enough impact on your liver to impede recovery. Now, you're taking NSAIDs 3 times a day, and you binge drink every Friday night. Okay, now your liver might have some problems. You're throwing in a little Dianabol with that. As an athlete, you're going to start seeing some inhibition of recovery, and that's mainly because your liver is going to be working overtime to detoxify your body, and that might start to meaningfully impact your recovery. So a lot of different factors going on there that you have to consider. So again, that's about, as far as it impacting recovery from toxicity, that's about cumulative effect, not just taking ibuprofen once or twice a day in isolation. All right, next question. You've been talking about girls and weight training lately. What are the differences in training and nutrition for them? Thanks. I can't imagine a day without your quality content, sir. Keep it up. Thank you, and I always appreciate loyal fans like that who watch my stuff every day. Without you guys, obviously, this channel wouldn't be here. So, thank you. All right, women in training. Honestly, 90% of what women need to do is going to overlap with men. I mean, men and women do have their structural differences. They do have their hormonal differences. They have their muscle fiber distribution differences. But we're not that different. We're not so different that, we need very, very different types of training. The only thing that you're going to realize with women, they're going to gain muscle slower than men. Women's maximum muscle size is going to be less than men. But as far as the way that women adapt and respond to weight training, all the current studies, all the current meta-analysis show that when load for load, when they have a given amount of muscle tissue that's loaded with a given amount of workload, it doesn't respond any differently than a man's does. The issue you have is that women have fewer muscle fibers and things in their upper body, and they just have less growth potential. They're just not going to get as big. Pound for pound, their lower body can get as big and strong as a man. Their upper body just isn't, purely because there's less muscle fibers there. They have fewer muscle fibers in their upper body. However, those muscle fibers respond the exact same way that a man's does. They're just not going to get real big and bulky. And women, again, tend to hold more body fat than men to be in the healthy range. And so women tend to recomposition more in their upper body. So they end up not getting as bulky when steroids don't become involved. They just don't because they just displace some of the fat they lose up there with the muscle gains that they do make. So it's kind of an interesting thing to watch. Women's upper bodies seem to just get denser, or what they call more toned, until hefty doses of anabolics come into the mix. Now, as far as training goes, biggest issue with women versus men in training differences, I always stress, even for men and athletes and anyone who doesn't want to injure their knees, the importance of being posterior chain dominant. Even men have a tendency to become quad dominant, but it's generally due to exercise selection, not a natural situation. Women, because of the way their bodies are structured and the way they carry their weight, women have a tendency to become posterior chain dominant on a balanced program. Just slightly. Women have a slight predisposition towards anterior chain dominance, meaning the front half of their lower body. So accordingly, women need to spend more time on their posterior chain, meaning I would have a woman do more deadlifting than squatting probably. If she's still lagging back there, then I would have her focus more on, again, maybe things like glute ham raises. For a female athlete, the glute ham raise, I would have them focus on those a lot, because women are going to have a slight tendency to develop a stronger quadricep to hamstring ratio than men do. And it's partially because, again, the way they carry their hips and the fact that they carry breasts. All right, that shifts their body's balance a little bit. It shifts their body's balance a little bit, but that can be fixed with training. And it's subtle differences. I mean, we're literally talking like a 10% shift in focus to balance them back out. But because of that, they're going to be more prone to potential knee injuries and things in an athletic environment or any real environment where they are forced to exert themselves under an emergency or anything, purely because of the fact that they tend to have a propensity towards quad dominance instead of hamstring dominance. And I would rather see most people who are ever going to be an athlete be more posterior chain dominant, whether a male or a female. Women just have to work a little bit harder at it. And again, we're talking only about 10% harder. It's not dramatically different. The other thing to consider with men versus women is going to be on the nutrition end. Women tend to have lower TDEEs, that's total daily energy expenditure. Women, when they want to lose weight, because they consume fewer calories, need to probably do more cardio than men to avoid dietary imbalances. The reason comes down to total calorie intake. Most women, when they're wanting to lose a given amount of body weight, are going to consume a lot less calories than a male, sometimes even a male of similar body weight, because again, body composition differences. Well, consuming less calories means less potential to getting all your micronutrients, and that's vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, fiber, everything else. What people don't understand is that a 100-pound woman or a 130-pound woman doesn't have dramatically different vitamin needs than a 280-pound man does. That's the thing that you can't get bodybuilders to grasp, and that's why you want to scream at them when they think that they need more vitamins because they're bigger. No. Your organs and everything need the same amount. Well, the problem is that a 130-pound woman who's wanting to lose half a pound a week, her calories could go pretty low. Calories go low, and if she's not loading up really, really heavy on extra salads and stuff, she could end up with vitamin deficiencies. She can end up with fatty acid deficiencies, all sort of dietary deficiencies because she's consuming too little amount of food. So for women, in order to allow them to eat more calories when they're restricting calories for any reason or trying to lose weight, they are generally going to want to do more overall cardio. And the cardio is just so that they can burn through more calories without creating extra metabolic fatigue in their muscle tissue. Because remember, guys, men versus women have a maximum... Sorry, it's not even men versus women, but people in general, they have a maximum recoverable fatigue as far as their training workloads go. A lot of men will tend to push in the direction to do more weightlifting to lose weight and push their maximum fatigue too high and start running into problems. Women, on the other hand, are going to be consuming less calories overall. They can't really afford, in terms of nutrient balance, to try that same method that some men get away with. They're going to need to do more cardio in general for weight loss. And I'm not removing the strength training component. It's important for them to lift moderately heavy and be doing big, heavy barbell movements to recomposition. But they need to burn more overall calories through activity versus their body weight, generally to make sure they don't develop dietary deficiencies. Because dietary deficiencies under caloric restriction can really cause you a lot of problems with your mood, your energy, hormone production, everything else. So again, people think of women sometimes as being hormonal. Well, you put a woman on too few calories and her hormones get really out of whack because her diet is unbalanced and she's deficient in something, then you're going to see real hormone problems, all right? You guys just think sometimes that women have hormonal issues. You actually create a real hormone problem through a dietary deficiency and fatigue. It's a whole nother ballgame, fellas. And it's not because they're women, it's just because they have lower caloric needs, sometimes unless they're being really physically active, but they have the same vitamin and mineral needs that you do. So again, cardio becomes a more useful tool as far as just doing more in general for caloric restriction. So outside of those two things, that's really all it comes down to. That's the only real differences in terms of diet and nutrition and training that you need to really consider in men versus women. Otherwise, we're pretty much the same as far as training response goes. Every single study has confirmed that women's muscles respond the exact same way that men's do to training stimulus as far as getting stronger, faster, the way they adapt, everything else. In fact, women are just as strong. The same amount of muscle from a woman versus a man You can't tell them apart when you test them in the strength in the lab. You can't tell which is the male and female. All right, their muscles produce the same amount of strength per volume of muscle fiber tissue that ours do. And they adapt the same way that ours does to training. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.